Professional walnut blasting typically costs between $400 and $800, depending on the vehicle and labor rates in your area. While that may sound expensive, compare it to the cost of chasing misfire problems, replacing unnecessary parts, or dealing with long-term engine damage. Many owners notice immediate improvements after the service. Common benefits include stronger acceleration, better throttle response, smoother idle, easier cold starts, improved fuel economy, reduced misfires, fewer check engine lights. Some drivers even report gaining several miles per gallon after the cleaning. How often should it be done? There is no universal interval because driving habits play a huge role. In general, highway-driven vehicles may go longer between cleanings. Short-trip vehicles may need service sooner. Turbocharged engines usually build deposits faster. For most direct injection engines, a professional cleaning every 50,000 to 80,000 miles is a reasonable guideline. Turbocharged vehicles may benefit from cleaning closer to every 50,000 to 60,000 miles. Can you clean it yourself? The answer is yes, but only to a certain extent. Several intake cleaning products are available that can be sprayed through the intake system. These cleaners may help remove light deposits and slow future buildup. They can be useful as preventive maintenance. However, they have limitations. Once carbon deposits become thick and hardened, chemical cleaners often struggle to remove them completely. That's where walnut blasting has a major advantage. It physically removes buildup that chemicals simply cannot reach effectively. What about fuel additives? Fuel additives are great for keeping injectors clean. Unfortunately, they cannot directly clean intake valves in a direct injection engine. Remember, the fuel never passes over those valves. That means fuel additives are excellent for maintenance, but not for fixing severe intake valve deposits. Think of them as a preventive tool rather than a cure. How to prevent carbon buildup? The good news is that you can slow the process significantly. Here are some simple habits that help. Use quality fuel top-tier gasoline contains stronger detergent packages that help keep the fuel system cleaner overall. Change oil regularly. Fresh synthetic oil reduces the amount of oil vapor entering the intake system. Regular oil changes are one of the best preventive measures available. Drive the car long enough to warm up. Engines that reach full operating temperature regularly tend to accumulate deposits more slowly. Highway driving is especially beneficial. Avoid constant short trips. If most of your driving is only a few minutes at a time, carbon buildup can accelerate. Occasional longer drives help offset this problem. Consider an oil catch. A quality catch can captures oil vapors before they reach the intake system. Many enthusiasts install them specifically to reduce carbon accumulation. Use preventive intake cleaners. Using a quality intake cleaner every 10,000 to 15,000 miles can help keep deposits from becoming severe. What should you do based on mileage? Under 50,000 miles, if the engine runs well, focus on prevention. Use quality fuel, maintain regular oil changes, and occasionally drive the vehicle at highway speeds. Between 50,000 and 100,000 miles? If you're noticing rough starts, hesitation, or slight performance loss, start with preventive cleaning products. If symptoms continue, begin planning for a professional intake valve cleaning. Over 100,000 miles. If you're experiencing consistent misfires, poor performance, or major fuel economy loss, professional walnut blasting is usually the most effective solution. Under 50,000 miles. If the engine runs well, focus on prevention. Use quality fuel, maintain regular oil changes, and occasionally drive the vehicle at highway speeds. Between 50,000 and 100,000 miles. If you're noticing rough starts, hesitation, or slight performance loss, start with preventive cleaning products. If symptoms continue, begin planning for a professional intake valve cleaning. Over 100,000 miles. If you're experiencing consistent misfires, poor performance, or major fuel economy loss, professional walnut blasting is usually the most effective solution. At this stage, severe deposits are often the root cause. The bottom line, carbon buildup is one of the most common reasons modern direct injection engines lose performance. The good news is that it usually isn't permanent damage. In many cases, the engine isn't worn out at all, it's simply dirty. Your engine feels weak. Fuel economy has dropped. It idles rough on cold mornings, hesitates when you accelerate, and maybe even throws a random check engine light. Most people think this means the engine is getting old and worn out. In many cases, that's not true. After years of working on modern vehicles, I've seen countless engines regain lost power without replacing a single major part. The real problem is often something much simpler: carbon buildup on the intake valves. Today I'll explain why this happens, how it affects performance, and the one cleaning procedure that can make an engine feel years younger again. Why modern engines develop carbon buildup. Modern direct injection engines are designed for better fuel economy, stronger performance, and lower emissions. Unlike older engines, fuel is sprayed directly into the combustion chamber instead of onto the intake valves. This design improves efficiency, but it also creates a problem. In older port-injected engines, gasoline constantly washed over the intake valves. That fuel naturally cleaned away small deposits before they could build up. Direct injection engines don't get that benefit. Since fuel never touches the intake valves, oil vapors and crankcase gases slowly leave behind carbon deposits. Over time, those deposits become thick enough to restrict airflow and reduce engine performance. The result? Your engine can lose power, burn more fuel, and start developing drivability issues even though nothing is actually broken. Common symptoms of carbon buildup. Many drivers spend money replacing sensors, spark plugs, or ignition parts when carbon buildup is the real culprit. Here are some warning signs: rough idle during cold starts, random engine misfires, delayed throttle response, sluggish acceleration, reduced fuel economy, intermittent check engine lights, higher emissions levels. At first, the symptoms may seem minor, but as deposits continue growing, performance gradually gets worse. The frustrating part is that many of these issues come and go, making them difficult to diagnose. Which vehicles are most affected? Almost every direct injection engine can develop this problem. However, it tends to be more noticeable in turbocharged engines, high-performance vehicles, German brands such as Volkswagen, Audi, and BMW vehicles driven mostly on short trips, cars that rarely see highway driving. Short trips are especially hard on direct injection engines. When the engine never stays hot for long periods, carbon deposits have more opportunity to accumulate and harden. Drivers who only make quick trips around town often experience buildup much faster than those who regularly drive on highways. A real-world example. One vehicle that came into a shop had only about 40,000 miles. The owner complained about rough cold starts and occasional misfire codes. At first glance, everything looked normal. Ignition components checked out fine. Sensors showed no obvious problems. But when the intake system was inspected with a camera, the intake valves were covered with heavy carbon deposits. After a professional cleaning, the engine started smoothly, idled properly, and regained the responsiveness it had lost. Nothing major was repaired. The engine was simply cleaned. The most effective solution. When carbon buildup becomes severe, there is one method that consistently delivers the best results: walnut shell blasting. This has become the industry standard for cleaning intake valves on direct injection engines. The process works like this. The intake manifold is removed. Access is gained to the intake valves. Large carbon deposits are manually loosened. Crushed walnut shell media is blasted at high speed onto the valves. Carbon deposits are removed completely. The intake system is cleaned and reassembled. The result is intake valves that look dramatically cleaner and allow proper airflow once again. Why walnut shells? It sounds strange at first. Why use walnut shells inside an engine? Because they are the perfect balance of strength and safety. Walnut shell media is hard enough to break apart stubborn carbon deposits, but soft enough to avoid damaging aluminum components and valve surfaces. That makes it extremely effective for cleaning without causing harm. Unlike many chemical treatments, walnut blasting physically removes hardened deposits rather than trying to dissolve them. That's why professional shops rely on it. What does it cost?